The sky above Velthora turned red. Not the red of a calm sunset, but a deep, angry red, as if the sky itself was wounded. People stopped in the streets, eyes wide, pointing toward the clouds. Even the tall silver towers of the capital city glowed under the strange light. A fire was falling from the sky. Inside the high command tower, Emperor Kalin stood before a wide glass window, watching the streak tear through the atmosphere. His long blue cloak moved gently with the breeze from the climate controls. Behind him, tall generals in black armor studied a floating map, blinking with signals. One of the generals spoke. "Your Majesty, we've confirmed it. A Terran drop pod. 1 passenger. It landed in the Green Wilds near Sector 12. Kalin didn't turn. His voice was calm. "Just one?" "Yes, just one. A human." A silence fell in the room. One of the younger officers looked confused. "Only one soldier, sir. Should we prepare a welcome squad?" Kalin finally turned. His silver eyes narrowed. "No, not a welcome, a warning." From the far end of the room, a voice broke the silence. "Not him, Father. I'm afraid of that human warrior." The room turned as one. Princess Aerie stood at the door, her long silver hair shining under the ceiling lights. Her hands were clenched at her sides, and her voice shook, not from anger but from something deeper, fear. Kalin frowned. "What do you know of this, Aerie?" She walked slowly into the room, her eyes fixed on the red sky. "I've seen him before, years ago, during the Trenya campaign. He walked through fire, through walls, through everything we threw at him. He doesn't stop." The generals chuckled quietly. One of them, a large male named Commander Drovan, smiled. "With respect, Princess, humans are brave, yes. But one soldier? That's nothing against the strength of Velthora." Aerie looked at him. "Then send your best, but don't expect them to return." Kalin raised a hand, silencing the room. He looked at the blinking map again. The drop pod's signal had stopped. No energy, no sound. But that was the problem. It was too quiet. "Dispatch the Red Guard," Kalin said. The Red Guard, elite fighters with thermal shields and heavy rifles, were sent to Sector 12. They were fast, strong, and trained for any kind of enemy. Within 1 hour, 12 of them landed near the site. 10 minutes later, the signal was lost, not damaged, not under attack, just gone. Next, Kalin sent flying drones to scan the area. They found nothing. The drop pod was empty. No human body, no footprints, only scorched trees and a strange symbol carved into a rock. It was the mark of the old Earth Alliance. A broken sword in a circle. Princess Aerie stood behind her father, silent. Kalin did not speak for a long time. Finally, he turned to her and said, "You believe it's the same human?" She nodded. "His name is Bran, or at least that's what they called him. He was in the records. But after Trenya, the records were sealed." Kalin walked to a control panel and tapped in a code. The lights dimmed and a screen appeared, showing a battlefield from long ago. Smoke, fire, screaming, and through it, all, a single human figure moving like a shadow. Fast, clever, impossible to catch. "That's him," Aerie whispered. Kalin studied the image. One man destroyed an entire fortress. He walked into a base with over 500 troops, and he left without a single scratch. "And we never found out how," Aerie added. Kalin turned back to the window. The red glow of the sky was fading, but the worry in his heart was growing. "Prepare. The Iron Circle," he said quietly. A gasp moved through the room. The Iron Circle was his personal strike force, ancient warriors enhanced with the Empire's strongest armor. They were only called for war. "Father," Aerie said softly. "What? If he doesn't want war, then he shouldn't have landed on my planet," Kalin replied. But deep inside, even Kalen wondered, why would a lone human warrior return? What was he looking for? Revenge? A lost friend? Or something worse? In the wild forests of Sector 12, the wind moved slowly through the trees. A small drone, silent and blinking, floated near a broken branch. Then it paused. A shape moved below. Bran crouched in the shadows, his eyes scanning the sky. His armor was old, scratched and dark, but his movements were smooth, quiet. He tapped the side of his helmet, and a small voice replied through the speaker. Local scans complete. Hostile movement. 14 kilometers northeast. Red Guard neutralized. Bran nodded. Good work, Nilo. The voice belonged to an old AI, simple but loyal. A relic from the Earth Wars. Together they had survived places most humans never returned from. Bran stood. The trees around him were silent. Even the birds had left. He looked toward the direction of the city. I'm not here to fight, he said quietly. But I will, if I must. He took one step forward and disappeared into the shadows. Back in the palace, Aerie stood at her window, watching the stars. One of them had fallen, and she knew what it meant. The green wilds stretched wide beneath the twin moons of Velthora. Tall trees with silver leaves whispered in the gentle wind. Strange, glowing plants dotted the ground. It was a beautiful place, but tonight it felt empty. Too empty. No animals moved. No sounds of night creatures. Only the quiet hum of distant city lights. The soldiers of the Chavanti Empire called this place the Silent Forest, for good reason. Many hunters and explorers had disappeared here. They said the forest had eyes, and no one could escape once it noticed them. Tonight, the Silent Forest watched. From the shadows, a single figure moved with the skill of a ghost. No armor clanked. No breath showed in the cold air. Just footsteps soft as leaves falling. This was Bran, the human warrior. Years of battle had taught Bran one lesson: never leave a trail. His dark combat suit blended with the night. Small patches of worn metal and leather were his armor, and a thin blade hung from his waist. A small drone floated nearby, humming softly. Nilo, his AI companion and watcher. Bran stopped near a large tree and crouched. He placed a small device on the ground. It blinked and sent out signals, scanning the area. Hostile presence. Multiple patrols in 3 directions, Nilo said calmly. They are searching for you. Bran's eyes narrowed. Good. Let them come. For years, humans like Bran had been legends. Stories told in whispers across many planets. They said a single human soldier had destroyed entire armies. He did not fight like others. His mind was sharp and his body even sharper. He fought like the wild itself, fast, silent, deadly. The Chavanti Empire called him the Ghost Warrior. But Bran was no ghost. He was very real and very angry. He rose and moved through the forest, deeper into the green shadows. He knew the Red Guard had lost him once, but they would not stop searching. Suddenly, a bright light appeared ahead. A group of soldiers surrounded a small clearing, their plasma rifles glowing blue. Bran slipped into the darkness. He watched as the soldiers spoke into their helmets, searching. He waited. Seconds passed. Then, like a shadow, Bran struck. The soldiers barely heard the first sound before they were down. His movements were quick, precise. No shots fired, no alarms. When it was over, Bran disappeared before anyone could call for help. Back in the capital city, Princess Aerie paced nervously in her chambers. The news had reached her. More Red Guard patrols had vanished in the green wilds. She looked out her window, at the dark sky. The stars were calm, but her mind was not. Why does he come back? She whispered. Her hand touched the small pendant around her neck, a simple crystal glowing faintly. Because he wants something, her voice was firm. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. "Princess," a voice said softly. It was her friend. "And guard, Mara. The Emperor has called a meeting." Irie nodded and followed Mara through silent halls. The palace was a labyrinth of shining halls and glowing panels. Guards stood silently, watching all entrances. In the throne room, Emperor Kalen sat with his council. The room felt heavy with worry. "Report," Kalen commanded. One of the generals stepped forward. "Your Majesty, we have lost contact with 4 patrol groups. The Ghost Warrior is in the Green Wilds. Our technology cannot track him. It's as if he melts into the forest itself." Kalen's face was stern. "What of the people? The citizens?" "Panic grows," the general replied. "Rumors spread that the human brings doom. We must act quickly." Arie's voice broke the tense air. "Father, he is not just a warrior. He is a symbol. He shows us that we can be defeated." Kalen looked at her. "Symbols do not win wars. Power does." "But what if this human has power we cannot see?" Arie asked quietly. Kalen sighed. "Then we will meet him with power greater than his." The council nodded, but unease hung in the air like a storm. Meanwhile, Bran moved silently through the forest, his thoughts heavy. Years ago, Velthora's forces had attacked his homeworld. They had stolen an ancient Terran beacon, a device with great power. It was the reason he was here now. He was not here to start a war. He was here to take back what was stolen. The beacon was in the heart of the Velthoran palace, locked away, in the vaults. Bran knew he could not ask for it politely, but he hoped the Empire would understand the meaning of his visit. His AI drone, Nilo, blinked beside him. Energy readings suggest increased security near the capital. "Recommend caution." Bran nodded. "We move at night. No alarms." The night deepened. The forest seemed to close around him, but Bran moved with calm and purpose. He reached a small river and paused to drink. The water was cold but refreshing. A soft rustle startled him. Bran dropped to the ground, blade ready. From the bushes stepped a young Velthoran soldier. He was surprised to see Bran but did not attack. "Who are you?" the soldier asked, voice shaking. Bran spoke gently. "I am not your enemy. I want only to speak to the Emperor." The soldier hesitated. "That is impossible. The palace is locked down." Bran smiled faintly. "Nothing is impossible." Before the soldier could react, Bran vanished into the shadows. Back in the palace, Emperor Kalen stood on the balcony, looking over the city. The lights of Velthora blinked like stars fallen to earth. His daughter joined him, her eyes still filled with worry. "Father," Aerie said softly, "this human, he is different, not just because he fights well. He is a reminder that we are not invincible." Kalen placed a hand on her shoulder. "We must be stronger than fear." "But what if fear is what makes us strong?" she asked. Kalen did not answer. The red glow of the sky was gone, but the fire in their hearts was only growing. Far from the palace, Bran reached the edge of the city. The quiet streets seemed empty, but he knew enemies waited. His mission was clear. Get inside, find the beacon, and leave before they knew he was there. But deep inside, Bran felt the weight of many years. The war was not just outside, it was inside him too. He looked to the stars and whispered, "For every loss, there is hope." And in the dark corners of Velthora, the legend of the human warrior grew, not just a soldier, not just a ghost, but a force that no one could stop. The palace gates of Velthora stood tall and bright under the pale light of the twin moons. Guards in shining armor paced along the walls, their eyes sharp and alert. The city hummed quietly beyond, the usual noise of night traders, patrols, and distant music. But the palace was silent. Inside the throne room, Emperor Kalen sat on his great chair, surrounded by advisors and generals. His face was stern but tired. News of the missing patrols and failed searches weighed heavily on him. He looked to the large holographic map hovering above the floor. A blinking red dot marked the drop pod's landing site, the edge of the green wilds. Suddenly, a soft alarm sounded. The grand doors at the palace entrance slid open with a heavy hiss. A figure stood there, a single man, Bran, the human warrior. He did not run. He did not hide. He simply walked inside, as calm as a breeze. The guards stiffened. Weapons were drawn, but Bran raised a hand, and his AI drone, Nilo, activated a small device that sent a pulse through the palace's security system. Lights flickered, defense shields dropped, alarms stopped. Bran's voice echoed clearly through. "The Great Hall. I am here for what was taken from my people." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "What do you want, human?" Bran took a slow step forward. His voice was steady but full of meaning. "The beacon." A murmur ran through the crowd. The Terran beacon, the device stolen long ago during a forgotten war. It was said to hold power beyond imagination. Power Kalen used as a trophy, locked away in the deepest vault of the palace. The room filled with tension. Kalen's voice was cold. "You think you can demand what belongs to the Kavanti Empire?" Bran shook his head. "I don't want war. I want what is mine." The Emperor laughed. "Then you will leave empty-handed." Bran stepped closer, his eyes never leaving Kalen's. "Then this becomes one," he said. The meaning was clear. Bran was ready to fight. Suddenly, the palace doors burst open, and elite soldiers rushed in, Iron Circle warriors, wearing the heaviest armor and carrying the strongest weapons. They surrounded Bran, but Bran did not fight as they expected. He moved like a shadow, fast, silent, and powerful. His blade flashed like lightning. One by one, the Iron Circle fell. The battle was over in minutes. When the dust settled, Bran stood alone, unharmed. The Emperor stared, stunned. "How?" Bran's voice was low. "Because humans don't give up." Aerie stepped forward from the crowd, her voice trembling but strong. "Father, this is the man I warned you about." Kalen turned to her, anger in his eyes. "He is a threat." Aerie shook her head. "He is a warning." Bran looked at the Emperor once more. "Give me the beacon. End this before it begins." Kalen hesitated, then nodded sharply. "Take it." Soldiers led Bran to the vault deep beneath the palace. Heavy doors opened to reveal a glowing crystal, the Terran beacon pulsing with blue light. Bran reached out and touched it. The room filled with energy. Lights flickered. The beacon hummed like a living thing. He turned to Aerie. "This belongs to the people it was made for. Return it, and there will be peace." With that, Bran and Nilo disappeared as quickly as they had come, leaving behind silence and awe. Aerie watched the empty throne room, her heart heavy but hopeful. The silence after Bran's visit was deep and strange. The great palace of Velthora, which always buzzed with activity, now felt cold and empty. Emperor Kalen stood alone in the vault, staring at the empty space where the Terran beacon had rested. A faint blue glow still lingered in the air. His fingers clenched into fists. He thought about the man, the human warrior, who had walked into his palace and taken what Kalen had guarded for years. No force, no army, nothing had stopped him. And that terrified Kalen more than any war ever could. In the quiet halls, Princess Aerie walked slowly, her mind filled with questions. She had warned her father, yet even she had not expected Bran's boldness. Why did he come? She whispered to herself. Ari, her closest friend and trusted guard, appeared beside her. To remind us, Princess. Remind us that strength is not just in weapons but in will. Ari nodded. He is different. More than a warrior, he carries the weight of many lives. They reached the throne room where the council awaited. Kalen spoke first. We must prepare. Bran's arrival changes everything. He shows us our weakness. One of the generals, a woman named Vena, frowned. Your Majesty, if this human warrior can move through our strongest guards, what hope do we have? Kalen's voice was cold. We will find a way. We always do. Ari spoke carefully. Or we could try to understand him. Why does he risk so much? What does he truly want? Kalen's eyes burned. He wants to take back what was stolen. But if we give it, what stops others from doing the same? The council was divided. Far from the palace, Bran moved through the green shadows of the forest. The Terran beacon pulsed softly in his pack, a reminder of the long journey ahead. He thought about the past, the wars, the losses, and the reason. He fought. Years ago, when the Velthoran Empire first attacked his homeworld, it was not just for land or power. They wanted the beacon because it held the key to peace and hope for many species. But instead of peace, the theft had caused war. Bran's family had been lost in the fighting, his people scattered. He had become a warrior not because he wanted to fight, but because he had no choice. He looked up at the stars. This ends now, he said quietly. Nilo hovered close, its small lights blinking. Warning! Patrols increasing near the city. Recommend caution. Bran nodded. We move fast. Back in the capital, strange events began to unfold. Reports came in of power outages, strange lights in the sky, and shadows moving in places they shouldn't. Ari stood on the balcony watching the city below. She felt the weight of the beacon's loss, not just for the Empire, but for herself. Her father's anger was clear, but beneath it she sensed fear. Bran has changed everything, she said softly. Her friend Mara stepped beside her. Do you think peace is possible? Ari looked at the stars. If we are brave enough to try. That night, deep in the forests surrounding the city, Bran found himself face to face with a small group of Velthoran scouts. They had followed him silently, but instead of fighting, Bran lowered his blade. Why do you chase me? He asked. One of the scouts, a young woman, stepped forward. Her eyes were wide but curious. We were sent to capture you, she said. But I want to understand. Why do you risk so much for this beacon? Bran looked at her, tired but hopeful. Because it is more than power. It is a promise, a chance for peace. The scout hesitated, then lowered her weapon. I will not stop you. Word spread quietly among the scouts. Some still feared Bran, but others saw him as something more, a symbol of hope. In the palace, Emperor Kalen prepared his next move. He called upon the ancient scholars of Velthora, hoping to unlock the secrets of the beacon. If they could control its power, they might stop Bran. But even the scholars were puzzled. The beacon responds only to those who carry the right hope, one elder said. Kalen's face grew darker. Then we must take hope from our enemies. Irie listened quietly. She knew that if war came again, it would not be the same. Meanwhile, Bran reached the edge of the forest and looked toward the city. He knew the journey ahead was dangerous. The Empire would not give up easily. But he also knew that sometimes the greatest strength was not in the sword, but in the heart. He whispered to Nilo, "We keep moving, for those who cannot." As the twin moons rose higher, Bran disappeared into the shadows once more. The story of the human warrior was no longer just a tale told in whispers. It was a call to change, and Velthora would never be the same. The city of Velthora was alive with tension. Even the brightest stars seemed dimmer tonight. The streets buzzed with whispers of the human warrior who had come, taken the beacon, and vanished again. In the palace, Emperor Kalen sat before a circle of glowing screens. His face was stern, his eyes sharp. "This human has made his move," he said. "Now, we make ours." One of his generals, a tall man named Dalen, nodded. "The people grow restless, Your Majesty. Fear is spreading. They demand action." Kalen leaned forward. "Then we will give them a choice. Fight or surrender." Ari stood quietly at the edge of the room, her heart heavy. She knew what this meant. More war. More pain. She turned away, her thoughts racing. Outside, Bran moved swiftly through the dark streets near the palace walls. His pack held the beacon, its soft light pulsing steadily. Nilo hovered near him, its sensors alert. "Patrols are increasing," Nilo warned. "We need to reach the safe zone before dawn." Bran nodded. "Let's move." Suddenly, a group of soldiers blocked their path. Bran stopped. The soldiers raised their weapons. "Human!" one shouted. "You are under arrest!" But Bran did not raise his hands. Instead, he stepped forward, calm and sure. "Why do you fight me?" he asked quietly. One soldier, younger than the rest, hesitated. "We fight for our homes," he said. "For our families." Bran looked into the soldier's eyes. "So do I." For a moment, time seemed to slow. Then Bran lowered his blade. "I don't want more blood," he said. "I want peace." The soldiers looked at each other, confused. Suddenly, the young soldier lowered his weapon. "If you truly want peace, show us." Bran nodded. Back in the palace, Ari stood before the council. "The human warrior carries a message," she said. "Not just of war, but of hope. We must listen." The generals shook their heads. "Our strength is power," one said. "Peace comes from victory." Ari's voice grew stronger. "But what if victory means destruction? What if peace comes from understanding?" Kalen's eyes narrowed. "Understanding makes us weak," he said. "No," Ari replied softly. "Understanding makes us strong." That night, Bran met secretly with the young soldier who had lowered his weapon. "I am Joran," the soldier said. "I want to believe you, but many do not." Bran smiled faintly. "Then we must show them." Together, they planned. Bran would return to the city with a message of peace and hope, but the path was dangerous. The next day, as the twin moons began to set, Bran stood on a high rooftop overlooking the city. He raised the beacon high. Its light grew brighter, shining across the streets, the forests, the palace. A crowd gathered below, watching in silence. Bran's voice echoed across the city. "This beacon is a symbol, not of power, but of hope, of a future where all can live in peace." Whispers turned to cheers. From the shadows, Emperor Kalen watched, his face unreadable. But peace was not easy. The old fears, the anger, the hatred, these did not vanish with a bright light. In the council room, Kalen made a decision. "We will test this peace," he said. "If it fails, we will show the human warrior the true meaning of power." Bran felt the weight of every eye upon him. He knew the road ahead was hard, but with hope as his guide, he was ready. For the first time in years, he believed in a future beyond war. The city of Velthora was quiet, but the tension was thick like a heavy fog. Though Bran's message of peace had spread, not everyone was ready to believe it. Fear and anger still ruled many hearts. Emperor Kalen watched from his chambers. His face was hard, but a flicker of worry showed in his eyes. "We will see if this human warrior's peace can survive the fire," Kalen said to his generals. "They will face a challenge," he added. And if they fail, the Empire will return, stronger than ever. Meanwhile, Bran prepared for what was coming. With the Terran beacon safely hidden, he gathered those who had begun to trust him. A small group of Velthoran soldiers led by Joran and a few civilians who dreamed of peace. We cannot fight with swords alone, Bran said. We must fight with courage, with hope. Nilo hovered nearby, its lights blinking softly. Scans show heavy military movement near the palace, Nilo warned. The Empire plans a test, perhaps a trap. Bran's eyes sharpened. We must be ready. That night, strange lights appeared above the city. The palace guards activated shields and the city's defense systems hummed to life. Bran and his group moved carefully through the streets, avoiding patrols. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the city square. The crowd screamed and scattered. Bran pushed forward, his heart pounding. He saw soldiers firing into the air, trying to scare the people. This is the test, Joran said, his voice grim. Bran stepped into the open, raising his hand. Stop, he shouted. The soldiers hesitated. Bran's voice grew louder. This is not the way. Let the people choose peace. Some soldiers lowered their weapons. Others looked unsure. Kaelin's voice crackled over the city speakers. Human warrior, surrender the beacon or face destruction. Bran looked to the sky. We choose peace, he said firmly. Not war. The city held its breath. A group of young soldiers approached Bran, their weapons lowered. Joran smiled. Their courage is growing. Bran nodded. We must protect this hope. Suddenly, a shadow moved quickly behind the soldiers. An elite warrior, clad in black armor, appeared. He was fast, deadly, and strong. The crowd gasped. Bran stepped forward. The black warrior raised his blade. The two warriors faced each other. The fight was fierce, but silent. Blades clashed under the moonlight. Bran moved with skill, not just fighting, but protecting. He did not want to hurt his enemy. The black warrior pressed hard, but Bran's calm strength held firm. Finally, Bran disarmed the warrior. The black-clad soldier looked at Bran, breathing heavily. Why? He asked quietly. Why spare me? Bran looked into his eyes. Because peace is stronger than hate. The black warrior lowered his blade and nodded. Word of the duel spread quickly. Many saw that Bran's courage and mercy were real. The Emperor's plan had failed to break the hope. Kaelin clenched his fists. This is not over, he said. In the quiet moments after the fight, Aerie met Bran. You have shown great courage, she said softly. Bran smiled. Thank you, but courage is not mine, alone. It belongs to all who choose peace. Aerie looked at the city lights. Maybe this is the beginning of a new age. Bran nodded. For all of us. The night sky was calm once more. The beacon pulsed softly, a light in the darkness, and the people of Velthora began to believe that peace was possible. The dawn light broke over the city of Velthora, casting a warm glow on the tall towers and quiet streets. The city, once filled with fear and tension, now held a strange calm. Emperor Kaelin stood at the balcony of his palace, watching the people below. He had spent many long nights thinking about the human warrior, Bran, and the events that had changed everything. His face was softer than before. The hard lines of anger had faded, replaced by something new, understanding. Inside the palace, Princess Aerie moved quietly through the halls. She thought about the choice her father had made the night before. Kaelin had called a meeting of the council to discuss the future. Perhaps, he had said, it is time to try something different. Aerie smiled softly. She knew the road ahead would not be easy, but it was a start. Far from the palace, Bran and his small group gathered near the edge of the city. The Terran beacon rested safely in a secure place, its soft blue light pulsing steadily. Bran looked at the horizon. The first light of the sun touched the treetops. "This is the beginning," he said quietly. Joran, the young soldier who had come to trust Bran, nodded. "We will rebuild," Joran said. "Together," Bran smiled. "Together." Back in the city square, people gathered around the beacon's light. Some were curious, some were hopeful, many were still cautious. Bran stepped forward to speak. "Friends," he said, his voice clear and calm, "we stand at the edge of a new time. For too long we have lived in fear. For too long we have fought each other. But today, we choose a different path." The crowd listened, eyes wide. This beacon is not just a tool of power. It is a symbol of hope, a promise that all can live in peace. Whispers turned to nods. Slowly, hands raised in agreement. At the palace, Emperor Kaelin addressed the council. "We must open our hearts as well as our minds," he said. "We will send envoys to the human worlds. We will seek friendship, not war." Irie stood beside him, her eyes shining with pride. Days passed, and the city of Velthora began to change. Walls that once held enemies apart now opened as gates for traders and travelers. The marketplace filled with new goods and laughter. Bran worked with Aerie and Jorn to teach others about the beacon and what it meant. One afternoon, Bran and Aerie walked along the city's river. "You changed this place," Aerie said softly. "No," Bran replied. "The people changed it. I just helped them see the way." Aerie smiled. "Maybe we all have a little warrior inside us." Bran laughed. "I hope so, but peace was not without its challenges. Some still doubted. Some whispered in shadows, afraid that the old ways might return. Bran knew the fight was not over. It was only beginning. But he also knew this: when people choose hope, nothing can stop them. One evening, as the twin moons rose again, Bran stood on a hill overlooking Velthora. Nilo floated beside him. "Scans show increased signals from nearby systems," Nilo said. Bran nodded. "New friends, maybe, or new challenges." He looked at the stars, calm and ready. "Whatever comes, we will face it together." Back in the palace, Emperor Kaelin met with Irie and the council. "We have learned much," he said, "about strength, about courage, and about hope." Aerie smiled. "And about the power of one brave human warrior." Kaelin chuckled softly. "Not just one. Many warriors, all of us if we choose." The story of Bran, the human warrior, became legend across many worlds, not because he was the strongest or the fastest, but because he believed in something greater: peace, courage, and hope. Velthora was no longer a city of fear. It was a city of light. And as the sun rose higher, all who lived there looked forward to a future where enemies could become friends and warriors could become heroes of hope.